Fang Wenshu. It is said that Deng Changde, a native of Kaifeng, came to Yanzhou on a study tour and lived in a dilapidated temple. He was hired to copy and write for a person who specialized in making household registration books. At the end of the year, all his colleagues and servants went home, leaving Deng Changde alone to cook some food in the temple. One day, at dawn, a young woman knocked on the door and came in. She was very beautiful. She burned incense in front of the Buddha statue, knelt down and laughed. The next day, the young woman came to worship Buddha again. In the evening, after midnight, Deng Changde got up and held the lamp in his hand. Just when he wanted to do something, the young woman came early. Deng Changde asked, "Why did you come so early?" The young woman said, "There are too many people in the morning, so it is better to come at night. I am also worried that coming too early will disturb your sleep and rest. I saw the light just now and knew that you had gotten up, so I came." Deng Changde teased, "There is no one in the temple. Living here can avoid the pain of traveling back and forth." The young woman sneered, "There is no one in the temple. Are you a ghost?" Deng Changde saw that he could get close to her, so after she finished praying to the Buddha, he pulled her to sit down and beg for sex. The young woman said, "How can you do that kind of thing in front of the Buddha? How dare you have such delusional thoughts when you have no body?" Deng Changde insisted on pleading, and the young woman said, 30 miles away from here, there is a village with 6 people in it. The 7 children have not yet hired a private school teacher. You can go to a man named Liaozhai and ask for this errand, saying that you want to take your family with you and ask him to prepare another room. Then I can go with you. This is long-term solution. Deng Changde was worried that he would be convicted after abducting the woman. The young woman said, "It doesn't matter. My surname is Fang, and my nickname is Wenshu. I have no relatives and live in my uncle's house all year round. No one will know." Deng Changde was overjoyed. After bidding farewell to Wenshu, I went to visit Liaozhai in that village. As expected, he was hired as a private tutor, and he agreed to bring his family there a year ago. After returning, tell Wenshu that he passed by. Wenshu took the first step and agreed to wait for him on the road. Deng Changde then said goodbye to his colleagues, borrowed a horse and rushed to the village. As expected, Wenshu was waiting halfway. Deng Changde dismounted the horse, asked her to ride on it, and continued on his way. When they arrived at the academy, the two became good friends and lived together. After 6 or 7 years, they were like a husband and wife. Their relationship was reconciled. They were stable, and there was no pursuit of the fugitive woman. Later, Wenshu suddenly gave birth to a son. Because his wife at home was barren, Deng Changde was very happy to have a son unexpectedly, so he named him Yancheng. But Wenshu said, "The fake marriage will not become real after all. I will say goodbye to you and leave soon. So why give birth to such a tiring thing?" Deng Changde said in surprise, "I was thinking that if I had a good life, earned some money, I fled back to my hometown with you. How can I say such a thing?" Wenshu smiled quickly and said, Thank you very much. I will not flatter you and look up to the old lady. Being a wet nurse for others, embarrassing children." Deng Changde hurriedly defended his wife from being jealous, while Wenshu remained speechless. More than a month later, Deng Changde resigned from the library and planned to go out on business with Liaozhai's son. He told Wenshu, "I think if you expect to make a living as a private school teacher, you will never have enough time. It's better to learn to do some business, and it will be better. There is hope of earning some money and returning to my hometown." Wenshu didn't speak either. At night, Wenshu suddenly got up with her child in her arms. Deng Changde asked hurriedly, "What are you doing?" Wenshu said, "I'm leaving." Deng Changde got up in a hurry and was about to ask, but the door didn't open, and Wenshu didn't. There was no trace. Deng Changde was horrified and realized that Wenshu was not immortal. Because Wenshu was acting suspiciously, she didn't dare to tell anyone after she left. She just said she went back to her parents' home. Before this, when Deng Changde traveled away from home, he had agreed with his wife Lu that she would definitely come back at the end of the year. Unexpectedly, there was no news for several years. Some people rumored that Deng Sheng was dead, and Lu's brother persuaded her to remarry because she had no children. Lu disagreed and made an appointment with his brother to wait another 3 years and make a living by spinning and weaving every day. One day, after dark, Mr. Lu went out to close the door. A young woman suddenly squeezed in from the door, holding a baby in her arms, and said, "I came back from my parents' house. It happened to be dark. I knew that my sister lived alone, so I came to stay for the night." One night, Mr. Lu then asked her to come into the house. When I went into the room and took a closer look, I saw a beautiful woman in her 20s. Lu happily slept in the same bed with her, and the two played with the baby together. Seeing that the baby was as proud as a gourd and very cute, Mr. Lu said sadly, "Why don't I have such a thing?" The young woman said, "I just think he is tired. How about adopting him to his sister as a son?" Mrs. Lu said, "Don't say that the lady is reluctant, even if she is willing. I don't have the milk to feed him." The young woman said, "It's not difficult. When the child was just born, I didn't have the milk to feed him, so I drank half a dose of medicine. That'll be fine. The remaining medicine is still here, so I'll give it to you." As he said that, he took out a small bag and put it on the windowsill. Lu thought the young woman was joking and agreed casually, not feeling anything strange at all. When he woke up the next day, he called for the young woman, but no one answered. At first glance, the child was there, but the girl had opened the door and left. Mrs. Lu was very frightened until at midnight, the baby started to cry from hunger. Mrs. Lu had no choice but to drink the packet of medicine. After a while, milk came out and she fed the baby. After more than a year of this, the child grew whiter and fatter, and gradually learned to speak like a human being. Mr. Lu loved him as much as his own son. From then on, I gave up the idea of remarrying. It's just that I hug my children after getting up early every day. No longer able to work to make money, the family becomes more and more difficult. One day, the young woman suddenly came. Lu was shocked and feared that she was here to have a child, so he preemptively blamed her for leaving without saying goodbye, and then talked endlessly about the difficulties of raising a child. The young woman smiled and said, "Sister, if you tell me about your difficulties, will I abandon my son?" She called the child with her hand, but the child cried and threw herself into Lu's arms. The young woman scolded, "The little kid doesn't recognize his own mother." Then she said to Lu, "This child is worth 100 gold. Come with the money. Let's sign a contract of sale." Lu believed it, but couldn't get a penny out of it. His face couldn't help but blush. The young woman smiled hurriedly and said, "Sister, don't be afraid. I came here just for the sake of the child. Since we parted, I have been worried that my sister does not have the capital to raise a child. So I asked for loans from many sources and collected more than 10 taels of silver and brought it." So he took out the silver and handed it to Lu. Mrs. Lu was worried that if she accepted the money, she would have nothing to say if she wanted another child, and she would live or die. The young woman put her on the bed and went out by herself. Mrs. Lu hurriedly hugged her son and chased him out of the door. He was already far away, and he didn't care to shout. Mr. Lu suspected that the young woman had left in anger, and felt uneasy. But since getting the money and lending money to earn interest, the family has become much richer. 3 more years later, Deng Sheng made money from business, packed his luggage, and returned home. The couple was overjoyed to reunite after a long separation. Deng Sheng suddenly saw the child and asked whose family it belonged to. Lu told the story in detail. Deng Sheng asked again, "What's your name?" Lu said, "His mother calls him Yan Sheng." Deng Sheng was shocked and said, "This is really my son." He asked the young woman when she brought the child. It was the night he and Wenshu parted. Deng Sheng told his wife about the joys and sorrows of his relationship with Fang Wenshu. The two felt happy that they finally had a son, and looked forward to Wenshu's return, but there was no news again.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.